Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen and then we can start off with the session. Okay, can somebody unmute and let me know if in case the screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. So first and foremost, a very good evening to everyone and thank you so much for being patient and being there with me. In today's session, we will be talking about empathy and how it is important to be empathetic during this time of course where we are all going through difficult times. So to start off with, I am Nivedita, a counseling psychologist, and I have been working with the IITB for the last few months, and it has been an amazing experience. Before we go ahead, I would like to help you all to understand what is the flow of the session. We will be looking at understanding empathy, the difference between empathy and sympathy, what are the different types of empathy, how we can practice, what are the healthy boundaries that we need to set for ourselves, and a little takeaway towards the end of the session. So, sharing a link with you for the Mentimeter poll, I request you to kindly take a moment and share your thoughts on this Mentimeter poll. I have shared the link in the comments box. Kindly have a look at the poll. Describe the word empathy in 3 words. Right? Thank you so much for taking a part in this. All right. So as I could see, I could only have one person sharing their thoughts. I'll just wait for a moment so that we can see if we have any more people who can let us know what are the thoughts on empathy. Any 3 words that you guys can tell me about empathy. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you speak about or you talk about or you hear about empathy? Time, health, yes. Okay. So let's continue here and understand what does it exactly mean when we speak about empathy. When talking about empathy, it is the foundation on which understanding is all built up. Whenever we expect opposite people to understand us or to help us see what we are thinking across, that's where empathy comes up from. So the first thing for empathy is to understand or to be able to see the world as they see it. Now over here, they is the people who probably are going through any kind of difficulties or any situations that they could be needing help with. The second attribute for empathy is to be non-judgmental. Many a times we are very quick to come to a judgment saying that okay, this person is like that or he or she is used to behaving in a certain manner, and we have been seeing this in the past few times also. Empathy expects us to be away from this entire judgment and to help the person in a very non-judgmental manner. The third attribute of empathy is to understand the feelings. Many times it could be difficult to express how we feel either in our words and our actions, and that's where it is important to understand how the person could be feeling at the situation he or she is facing. And the fourth and important attribute of empathy is to communicate. How do we understand what the person exactly wants us to know? How can we take the message the person is probably able to deliver to us or probably not in a situation to let us know what he or she is feeling? So to talk about empathy has these 4 attributes. One is to see the person or to see the world from their perspective, to understand the person from a very non-judgmental point of view, to feel their feelings and to understand what they are going through, and the fourth is to communicate and be as much as open in the messages for receiving and giving. The next we talk about is the difference in empathy and sympathy. Many a times we see that there's a very thin line when it comes to empathy and sympathy. Empathy is to put yourself into the shoes of others to understand what he or she could be feeling. Whereas sympathy is understanding from your own perspective. It's your of ways and thoughts of ideas what the person could be going through. The emotions, when we speak about empathy, is very intense. It's about the emotional reaction to others, situations, feelings, and thoughts. Empathy is your feeling with the person. Whereas for sympathy, it is detachment from the situation. It is more about I hear you and understand you, but I'm not very sure how much I will be able to be there with you with your own feelings. Some examples for empathy could be the doctors, the frontline workers who are there to help us, counselors, teachers, all of these people, they can put themselves in your situation and be able to think about the current scenarios that you could be facing. Whereas some examples for sympathy could be hospitals, banks, and administrative forces. Even if people from banks or hospitals, they might know that we are facing difficulty, they may or may not be able to step into our shoes and help us sort out any kind of difficulty or problems. Am I audible? Are we in together?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. So, when we talk about the types of empathy, there are three types of empathy. One is the cognitive empathy. What do we mean by cognitive empathy? Is being able to see the perspective from which a person is coming across. It's just simply knowing what is the person feeling, what could be the thoughts, what could be the self talk the person is going through, and how you can help the person in that thought process. As simple as the word cognitive means, it's about the perspective. So, cognitive empathy speaks about the shift in your perspective or the shift into the thought process. The second type of empathy we speak about is the emotional empathy. When we speak about emotions, it is talking about being caught into the action of feeling either happy, sad, or any other pleasant or unpleasant feelings. Whenever you are with a person into the physical proximity, you could be able to show your feelings to them, and at the same point in time, you could also be picking up the feelings that they are going through. Many a times, we must have seen people in the hospital setups, or if in case somebody has passed away due to any kind of illness, or when we attend any funerals, many a times, whenever we are attending the situations, on our way back home, we are also very much sad and we are also very much affected by whatever incident that has taken place. This entire act is an act of an emotional empathy. It could or could not be people from your own family, could be a little extended family, but that pain and that emotion stays with you. And that's when we talk about this emotional empathy being very contagious. One person feels sad, people across the group would probably have a little low energy on that day. One person who's feeling a little happy and probably is able to share smiles, you'll automatically see the energy in the room shifts and becomes a little more positive. The third kind of empathy we speak about is the compassionate empathy. In this compassionate empathy, we are not only understanding the person's point of view, but we are also helping them to take an action which is required at that point in time. Many times we see that people, if they are unwell, they are not able to make decisions whether they should be opting out for surgeries or they should not be opting there. At that point in time, it is the family members who take the responsibility and take the action whatever is required at that point in time. That emotion or that act of being there for the person is called as compassionate empathy. It is helping the person move, helping the person take the action which is required to share or to express the kind of empathy you feel for that person. So, three types of empathy: first is cognitive, second is emotional, and the third is the compassionate empathy. Now, it is an activity time wherein I would like you all to have a look at the boxes that we have given across, which is certain words that are there, and then you have sentences which is A and B. Here A is one person and B is another person. Put yourself in that shoes and try to understand how would you be able to help that person identify which is the activity chart that we're talking about. Are you trying to help the person? Are you trying to like you know console them? Are you trying to sympathize with them, or are you trying to empathize with them? So I will pause you for a minute so that you guys can go through the three sentences and then we can talk about it. Anybody who would like to unmute and let me know whether what is the thing that you would be able to identify which is the empathy bingo that we're talking about in the first sentence or in the first conversation. Okay, meanwhile, can I request you all to kindly share your screens so that we will be able to connect much more in a human form, even though we are on the online form. If you all can switch on your video, it will be great so that we can see each other. Thank you, Harish. Okay. Would you like to go ahead, Harish, with the sentence that we were talking about? I'm sorry you were on mute. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes,
like, can you just share the screen? I think I
yes, yes. I just share the screen again. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like the first conversation
Mm-hmm.
is I think A is basically explaining the situation, and
Okay.
B is I think moved by that, or I think it can be considered empathy. I think to a certain extent.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's
All
my
right. Good try. What about the other ones? Would you like to go ahead with those?
yeah, yeah. I think the
Yeah.
the second one is um, actually the B is consoling, showing that like I think the A is saying that okay, this happened again. This is maybe a story, and
Hmm. Hmm.
B is consoling. Oh, don't worry about it, like that. And
Okay.
yeah, I think the yeah, in B is of course feeling right now. In the third one is kind of see himself herself in the same situation as A in the third. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure if we can call that empathy again.
Sure, no problem. And thank you so much for sharing, because that's where it's important to identify having that thin line when we speak about empathy and we speak about the sympathy.
Sympathy.
So I would like to share across another page where we'll be able to understand what exactly it means when we talk about certain situations or when we talk about certain sentences,
Okay.
and what those 12 boxes mean across. So, as we see together, I'm talking about how we understand the difference between fixing it something or being able to understand the difference between consoling and storytelling. For example, the fixing part we talk about is I'm anxious about getting to the airport on time. The way by which we can share our empathy is by letting them know that probably you could drive them. You're trying to fix the problem and find a solution to this. We talk about shutting down as an example, that my boss has cut my pay. Or a lot of us are going through pandemic and could be facing difficulties at work. This could be wherein a person could say it's okay, let's just go and play something, or we could just go and play pool. That's where you're not being able to understand the person, but you are cutting that off and taking another example of shutting it down completely. Let's look at the example of consoling. I feel terrible that my student failed his exam. Many times, we as classmates, we as educators, we do feel a little more affected or hurt if, in case, our fellow students or our mentors, for that mentees for that matter, are not able to do work well. So, over here is we have to be able to understand and empathize, saying that you are not at you're not the one to be blamed. You're a brilliant tutor. It could be that you might have shared across the best of your abilities and thought, but it could be that the student might have had some difficulties, or student might have felt some kind of difficulties and not be able to clear his examination. So, as mentors, as professors, as staff who is helping students, it's many a times important to understand that you could be giving your best, but it still may or may not be sufficient enough. But at that point in time, remember not to beat yourself up. Let's take the last example of empathizing. My whole house is flooded and everything in it is soaked. Do you feel stressed out and in need of some support? Now, that's the exact kind of empathy which is where we could be able to understand how the person could be feeling when his or her entire house has been filled up with water. I'm sure a lot of people might have been affected with the floods that we have, with the cyclone that we were experiencing a few days ago. At that point in time, rather than stressing out or rather than worrying of what needs to be done and what should be there, try to see what is the best support that you can give this person, and how is it that we can move forward from that situation. So that was a small activity to identify what is the problem statement and how can we help out the person by knowing what is the exact kind of empathy he or she could be in the need of. We move forward to understanding how are the ways to how are the ways to practice empathy. When we speak about empathy, it is always said that you have to place yourself in somebody else's shoes. But what does it exactly mean? As a student or as somebody who has been taking classes virtually, we can do first thing is to be there for each other. Right now, with the entire physical proximities and the social distancing that's happening, whether or not you're meeting your friends or your colleagues or your classmates, online you can definitely give them a high five or a fist bump and then share them and let them know that you are there with them. Second foremost is ask questions and listen. Many a times we do see that students as well as the classmates become quiet after a point in time. If you ask them how they are doing, they would say that yes, it's going well. If we ask them how are things, it's happening well, but not that great. But after a point in time, we see that even these expressions slowly start diminishing. That's where it is important to understand what is the message the person is trying to give you. Whether it's a verbal message or it's a non-verbal message, that is through their thoughts and their action. Third is to motivate and to encourage. Empathy does not always mean to, like, be there for the person in the physical ways. You can always help your people in need by sharing them some thoughts of motivation and encouraging them to take those steps, not just saying that okay, get up and do this and that, but to let them know that if they are getting up and if they have difficulty, they have your back. You will be there to help them across to stand if in case they feel a little shaky or if they are not very confident in their feet. That's where your task of motivating and encouraging comes, and that's where one of the ways you can practice empathy. Fourth is to radiate positivity. I'm sure a lot of us have been affected with this entire pandemic and this entire wave of COVID and the second wave and the third wave. Things are just going on and on. At that point in time, listening to the word positive gives us a little scary thought that why is there positivity? Instead of that positivity, talk about how you can express your life in a positive manner. Don't just relate that positivity to the results, but how can we relate this positivity in the life that we can live? What are the actions we can do to make single day brighter? Rather than worrying about how this week is going to be, let's focus about how my today is going to be better. What can I do to encourage my today so that I look forward for tomorrow? And that's how you can share your rays of positivity with them and empathize with the person. Next is implement student passion. Many a times, all of us who are in our own houses may or may not be motivated to take education online. It could also be that I am on my system throughout, but I am not able to make sense of it. At any point in time, as a student, if you feel that it is overwhelming to take any kind of education, or it's a non-stop thing which is continuously there and it's not making sense, take time out, reach out to people, make groups, and then start taking education. It could always be that whatever you learn as a group, many times it gets more accumulated and more understood, comprehended as when we do it as an individual format. Ensure that you are holding hands with each other and being able to understand whatever your educational format is, whatever the need of the hour for your educational purposes are. Next is to encourage your individuality. One person can finish probably three lectures in one day, and for the other person, it could be that finishing even one lecture a day could be a difficult task. Try and find out which is the common way out. How can you let the person know that if you are able to finish one lesson or one lecture, what is your takeaway from that session? What is it that you can understand from one specific chapter? How can we exchange notes and be able to identify the best way to move forward from this situation? Rather than leaving hand, it's more better to let an hand and see how can we finish more subjects in the given point in time. Next is to share a smile. Sharing smile hurts nobody, but it definitely gives out a lot more strength and empowerment to each one of us. Even when you're going across and you are having your mask on, which is a necessity, your eyes will let the person know that you are sharing a smile. Be sure that whoever you cross your paths with, share a smile and make a difference. Lastly, provide support. It is not always possible to be there for the person. It is not always possible to work it out on behalf of the others. Help them become like dependent rather than making them dependent. Help them become independent and give them the support that they need to stand on their own feet. Tell them that these are the steps they can do and how is it that they can find support in whichever steps that they choose to take across. For example, if in case I am doing a study group material or if in case I am being a part of the study group, I might be finding some chapters being very difficult due to the content or due to the language which has been shared in that. As a group, I can always tell them that this chapter I'm doing in my own ways. Let me know if in case we can connect later and see my understanding is better the way it is given in the chapter, or is it something that I need to add on to my knowledge to identify if in case I have done it well or not? That's the support that could be help of the person, and he or she will be able to then make sense of the learning, and then be able to move across. So as students, as fellow classmates, and as tutors and all educators and mentors, these are the simple steps by which we can practice empathy even when we are stuck up in our own respective houses. Apart from that, take a point or take a minute to reach out to new people also. If you could have your classmates, if you could have your batchmates in another parts of the world, reach out to them through probably your Google groups or the way the college or the institute helps us across. Ask people how are they feeling. If they are saying that they are not really feeling up to the mark or they're feeling very low, validate their feeling that yes, you are probably feeling a little low. I acknowledge that. What is it that we can do to make you feel better? Instantly, nobody's gonna say that, okay, now that we're talking, you're gonna feel better. No, that will not happen. Ask them, yes, it's okay to feel down. What is it that we can do to ensure that we can move from feeling sad to feeling a little better? That's when you validate the person's feelings. Find out common activities which by which you can bond with each other, and that is one of the ways you can be sure that the person is talking, or the person is sharing some questions, or the person probably is trying to see for some motivation, and that's where you can step in and share whatever is required. Listen to people more clearly. As much as talking to them, sharing your emotions are important, it's equally important to listen to what the people have to say. Many a times there could be things which could be just said in a sentence, but it could mean so much more. There could be so many underlying thoughts, underlying sentences, or emotions that people could just say at one go. Be more patient and be open to listening to what people are saying. Next, we talk about being able to help and offer your help as much as possible. So when we reach out to helping out to people, what are the ways by which you can help offer your help? It could be by being there for the person, or it could be in a way which is maximum by listening to the person, if not sharing your thoughts. Lastly, accept people without judgment. As we spoke in the earlier stages about being non judgmental, it is equally important to remember them that whenever they are sharing, it is most important to give them a safe space to share their thoughts. So it's very important to let them know that whatever they're talking about, whatever they want to share, is open, safe, and is going to be confidential with you. Lastly, when we speak about setting boundaries, it's very important to know that as a person who is empathetic towards others needs time for themselves also. So it's very important to know learning to say no. If you are the one who is constantly giving out a lot of help, energy, and your time to others, it's required to take some moments and say, okay, probably I could be of help at some other time. This time it's a no from me. Learning to say no is standing up for yourself and being assertive enough to take a step for your own mental well being. Secondly, trust your instincts. Many a times you could feel that a lot of people are just taking out energy from you, wherein they are not expecting anything in return. And that is by a way by which they are taking undue advantage of your kindness, your support, and your help. Know who are these people, try to understand what are the instincts that they have, what is it that you feel when you are sharing out your help to them, understand how it is, and take a call whether or not to go ahead with that person or safeguarding your thought from that person. Second, lastly, ensure that you take a break because you deserve it. All the while when you are there for other people, and there are some people who are probably taking a lot of energy out of you, try and see when is it required for you to take a break, because that is very much important, because as we always know that healing yourself first and the rest will follow, because unless and until your cup is full, you cannot give out to the other people. So take that time out, take that rest, and definitely heal yourself. Take that time to rest for yourself so that you can go back to helping people as much as possible, as and when possible, to all the needs that he or she probably could be required for. Lastly, if in case you would like to do a little more activity, this is one sheet which I would want you all to take a moment and look across. Is something that you can work whenever you are free or whenever you feel like. It's about writing about a situation when you felt sad or happy, and what it was for somebody else. How do you think empathy is a good thing? And write out some ways you might strengthen your empathy by caring for others. This is something you can do for yourself. And then, whenever you feel like if you would like to share it with us, you're most welcome. Lastly, as a takeaway for the session, I request you all to have a look at this video, which I will share the link in the chat box. Also, take a moment to share your thoughts and your feedback onto the feedback form. Thank you so much for being empathetic, and then thank you so much for being a patient listener, Harish, because I believe there was a little glitch, and because of which we could not really get through. Thank you so much for being there.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Any thoughts that you would like to share? Okay, just give me a minute while I share the feedback form link.
yeah,
Okay, this first link is for the video that you can go across for. And the second link that I'm sharing across is for the feedback. So thank you so much. Since it's just the three of us, I think it will be a good uh, thing to share, or probably we can wrap up for the evening.
thank you, Nivedita, for sharing this. Yeah, uh, yeah, I appreciate being here, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.